So normally when I start the podcast, I always ask my guests what was their favorite movie growing up. But for you, since you are a singer-songwriter, what was your favorite song or artist that you loved when you were a kid?
Oh, man. My favorite artist when I was a kid was LeAnn Rimes. And I actually have her vinyl. My friend gave me her vinyl for my birthday last year because I was telling him this too.
Yeah.
And he was just like, here's the Blue album. And I think I just really latched onto her because, I mean, she has an incredible voice.
Yeah.
And I really loved country music growing up. But I think I got into her when I was 9 or 10. And it was just really cool to see somebody performing and singing that was young.
Right.
I think she put out the album when she was 14.
It's crazy. Yeah, so young.
So,
So talented.
It goes back to that thing, if you can see it, you can be it. So instead of, my dad was listening to Chicago and Queen and the Eagles. And I was like, okay, there's a bunch of older gentlemen. I mean, older to me.
Sure.
Because I was a kid. And then I see LeAnn Rimes. And I'm like, oh, she's a 14-year-old female. And so it kind of just changed everything for me, and it made my impossible dreams seem like maybe a reality. That was her song Blue was my favorite. I sang that all the time.
That was it, yeah, for you. So when you were growing up, you mentioned all these this music that your parents were listening to. Did you have a lot of vinyl records in the house when you were a kid?
We did. My dad actually was a radio DJ in Korea for a really long time. So he got to interview a lot of musicians. He interviewed Freddie Mercury. He did some pretty epic interviews in Korea.
That's cool.
So he was really into music. And he wasn't into the music in the sense that he would like be playing guitar around the house or anything, but there was music playing in the house a lot, and I would just listen and dance and
now,
be a kid.
So you kind of catch the bug for singing and music and things like that, and then you and specifically your sister Meg start kind of singing together, right? You guys start playing it wherever you can play. Like, what were some of the places that you guys would go sing together?
We would sing. Well, we were in St. George, Utah at the time, so we sang a lot of the Electric Theater.
Great place.
We sang, there was an arts festival, I think in April. It was funny because I would kind of keep track as a kid of when certain events would come to St. George because then I could perform. So I was like, okay, April is the arts festival. August is the county fair would come and I would sing there. September's the rodeo, so I would try to sing there.
Right.
And when I say sing there, I mean sometimes I would just be on like the back of a truck bed singing while people are walking, and I wasn't like the main event for the rodeo or anything.
Okay. You're just like off Broadway, right? You're like, hey, we're gonna do something over here.
Just like panhandling on the street. So they were always just these little events. Sometimes I would perform random things that my dad would try. I would perform at a lot of nursing homes in St. George during lunch hour, like anywhere I could get. There was like a real estate office that would kind of have like a yearly party, and sometimes I would sing there. So it was really just trying to find anywhere to perform. But Meg was the first person that started writing original music, and that was also another kind of turning point. Like, oh, I don't have to sing karaoke. I can sing stuff that you write. I didn't think I could write at that moment. I was just like, you write. Yeah. And then, I started writing a few years after Meg.
Yeah, you guys were like 14 and she's was 16 or something. You're in that age range, right? Is that what it was? Yeah.
That was exactly it.
And then you kind of get your break, right? When do you get your break as a dynamic duo? Wonder Twins.
Yeah.
Boom,
We got our break at the Electric Theater in St. George, Utah. Yeah. It's so interesting now telling the story because it feels so old school because everybody's getting their break on TikTok or, some kind of viral YouTube video.
None of that. You had none of that right then.
Yeah, we had none of that. We were opening for a band at the Electric Theater, a band called Limbeck that was on Doghouse Records. And there was this guy there. His name was John Cheese. He was drunk. He was kind of like this crazy wild
Yeah.
person that was he was lovely, but you know, I always had this thought in my mind of like a music manager, a music person's going to be in a suit and like be all A&R and serious. And this guy, I think he had these flip-flops that he'd made with cardboard and duct tape, and he was just kind of wandering around. And Meg and I opened for Limbeck. We just performed right before
Yeah.
the headlining band because sometimes headlining bands will get local acts to open for them.
Right. Right.
So Meg and I performed, and then John Cheese came up to us. Was just kind of like, here's my number. Like, if you're ever in LA, hit me up. I can get you a showcase with Doghouse, with Limbeck's label. You guys got something, okay?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Meg and I were just kind of confused, but we called him
Yeah.
and we went to LA, and he pulled through.
Well, you've had a great career, and you still are having a great career with your sister and all the great stuff that you guys write. But at some point, we go to the auditions of The Voice, season one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You go. Meg doesn't go to do this. This is what you decide to do. That was, even in season one, I'm sure a gazillion people auditioned for it. What was the auditioning process like? Was it intimidating? Was it fun? Like, tell me about that.
It was very, very, very intimidating for me. In a weird way, I was intimidated here, but because it was season one, I had really nothing to go off of. I think if I had known how big the show was and what it was, my intimidation and nerves would have been through the roof. And I already thought they couldn't get any worse. You know, I'm the kind of person. There's a few different people in this world, and I know some actors or musicians who are just like, let me go in there and like show them what I can do. And I've never been that person. I'm like, oh, I think I have cotton mouth. Like I can't, like I need water.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a heart attack. Like I just get so nervous. And I still do. Even though I've been doing this for years. It's just my MO is just kind of, you know, fight or flight. And it was interesting because when I auditioned for The Voice, I think I was 22. It was a while ago. They didn't even have the coaches picked or cast. So I didn't have any kind of scope.
Yeah.
When my friend told me, oh, there's this show, there's these 4 coaches, they weren't like, oh, Christina Aguilera, et cetera. Because then I would have said, oh, whoa, this is big. It didn't seem that big to me at the time. Because it was still so being put together, it kind of seemed like it wasn't quite real.
Right.
That being said, even though it didn't seem big, it was still terrifying. There was still, you know, the audition day of showing up to this building and having people wrapped around down the street, movie style, just going for miles. And I auditioned. I played a Norah Jones song. My hands were shaking so badly when I played the guitar. That the casting director at the time was just like, honey, why don't you just sing it a cappella? I was like, okay. I put my guitar down, didn't play the guitar at all because I literally couldn't. And I sang a Norah Jones song, and I was just like, well, that did not go well.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I got called back. I went in with the producers again. And then the casting and kind of like production started of trying to find I think around like 70 of us kind of went into that group. It's kind of crazy to think about now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because what I'm hearing you say, you know, all the people lined up, everybody's there to audition, you're meeting with producers, you're going to a second round again, it sounds like. You're making adjustments, they're making suggestions to you. That sounds very, very much like an actor auditioning for a TV series or a movie. I mean, it is a TV, in a way, yes, obviously you have to sing and have talent to be on The Voice, but The Voice is a TV show. So there is an aspect of it, I would imagine, that they're looking at you like a performer on a TV show, you know, not just a singing performer, but your personality and who you are. And I'm just realizing that now, how similar your audition to The Voice is to actually the experience of what an actor does when they audition for a movie or a TV series. Now that you're an actor, do you feel like there's some similarities there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very, very similar. The interesting thing is, the only interesting thing on a in a visceral way is that when I get really nervous and I'm acting, I can use that. I always try to infuse it. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? This character's nervous today because it's their first day at work, or they're trying to tell their boyfriend that they need space. But with your voice is such a part of your body that the second you get nervous, it's kind of like, like it's just gone. But it really is similar. I mean, they're looking for people that are good singers, but they're also looking for people that are going to be cool to be around.
Right.
Or maybe they're looking for somebody that's a little, you know, that's going to be a little difficult and interesting to watch.
So the show's over, you get second place, but that's okay because then you tour with Blake Shelton for a while. You start, some people become more and more aware of you. You and Meg do some more songs, more recordings, more albums. But then, you know, acting trickles in. Now, did you instigate that and say to your manager or someone, I think I want to be in acting, like I'm seeing shows like Glee and stuff, and I think I want to go that direction? Or did someone say to you, hey, love the singing, love the songwriting, let's try acting? Like, how did you get to that place?
I never wanted to be an actor. I never thought of acting, and I was signed with Paradigm which is a big talent
very big, one of the top five or six for sure. Yeah.
So I was signed with them on the music side for performing and for music for shows. And I didn't even know they had an acting department. Like, I was just that naive and that silly. And I was I just thought the Paradigm booked shows for me. I didn't know that they rep screenwriters. And, you know, like you said, they're a top tier talent agency. I just landed with them after The Voice through my music manager, and I always got show offers from them. And then one day, a different kind of email came in. It was for an audition, and I had never seen an email for an audition. I never, you know, the character breakdown and with the production dates and the sides for the audition and to send in tape, and it was just completely new to me. And that was kind of my first step into the acting world. And I was kind of like, well, I can't not do this. I think the first thing I got, I think it was Les Mis, the Hugh Jackman movie.
Oh.
And I was kind of, you know, I can't just say no to this, even though I don't know how to act or do anything. I have to try. So of course I did try, and it was, I mean, if that self-tape ever resurfaces, I'll jump. Like, it was so bad.
What makes it bad? Because you had been auditioning on The Voice, so you had kind of seen how auditioning kind of works, but what makes this acting audition so bad?
I mean, acting, I just did not know how to act. And I thought I was one of those naive people who was like, I can just play myself, and like, how hard can it be? DIA, please. So that was one mindset that was very wrong. And then also, just as far as actually sending in a self-tape goes, it was just incorrect. You know, for everybody who doesn't know, when you send in a tape, it should be like kind of framed in a certain way. You should look at a certain place. There's a way to send in a correct tape, and mine was like staring straight into the camera, like this close, like being really
How
big.
close? Show me how close. How close were you? Hi.
It was just like,
yeah.
It was just so
Did you
weird.
sing?
And then
Did you sing?
For another, I did.
Okay, now
sing,
lean. We're gonna need to recreate it. So lean forward and just sing anything from Les Mis for 5 seconds. Just really close. Let's see.
Well, I would also need my boyfriend at the time in the video.
Oh, he'd be in the video.
People, you do not do this. You don't do this. But I was singing "A Little Drop of Rain," the song where what's her name is dying.
Yeah.
And she's being held by Marius, and she's singing "A Little Drop of Rain" to him. And I was like, hey, Adam, why don't you just hold me while I'm dying, and I'll just sing it to you in the tape. Don't do that.
This is so good. This is so good.
Yeah,
I want to see this tape. You're not even looking. It's just like, it's mostly him holding you, and you're looking at him.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so good. This is so.
And I also recorded the tape in a music rehearsal space. So there
Oh.
were like guitar
Oh yeah.
amps and drum
Oh yeah.
sets, and like I thought it would be a good space because it's all,
Yeah.
you know, black
Oh.
walls and stuff.
The choices you're making here
It was
are
just terrible.
amazing. These are amazing choices you're making.
I mean, I thought it was great at the time, but oh my gosh, it was just like the first headshot that I ever
Uh-huh.
made. There was a wind machine. I had so much makeup on. I had a prom dress on, like
Yes.
with glittery flowers, and it was just, you know, that's not my vibe at all,
You
clearly.
have you you
That
you have this headshot. I know you do.
I think I
Yeah,
probably
I'd
do.
like to I'd like to see
I'm
it.
sure I
I'd
could dig
like
it
to
up.
see it, Dia.
I I bet it is
Mhm.
somewhere, and it
Mhm.
was just so it was so bad.
Maybe you could do a
It,
music video where you see the headshot in it and then you're just singing in basically the same outfit. What do you think
so
about my idea? I think it's a good one.
actually, if I do find it though, I'm going
Mhm.
to send
Thank
it to
you. I
you.
appreciate that.
It's so, but yeah, but I mean, like after that happened, I did go out for all the singing
Right.
shows, Pitch Perfect,
Glee.
Glee,
Nashville, maybe? Was Nashville was that
anything.
later? That's later. Maybe.
Yeah, I did go out for Nashville. Um, But, you know, I just didn't know how to act, and finally, I got some really good advice from a
Mhm.
friend, who's kind of a mentor, a screenwriter, and he just said, "Get into class, like, get into group class, get into improv."
Mhm.
So that's when I just went hardcore student. I went into Groundlings, I went into UCB in LA, I went into film class, I went into theater class, and I just studied as much as I possibly could and immersed myself in it. And, you know, that was over 10 years ago. And I'm still in acting
Mm.
class. I'm not, I think of class now as kind of like going to the
Yeah, of
gym.
course. Yeah, exactly. That's
Um,
exactly what it's like.
yeah, I don't understand actors who act when they're on set. I just, I mean, great, that's good for you, but you know, and you can also do monologues in your room until the cows come home, but I still go to class every
Yeah.
Monday, and you know, last Monday we were studying Ozark, and it was super fun, and it feels like a workout just to be present and listen, and also emotionally,
Yeah.
you know, be available.
Mhm.
So
Keep your
yeah, it's
skills
been a never ending
keep your
journey.
skills sharp, right? You know? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes total
Like
sense.
you have
What
to.
okay, so you start getting serious, you start getting the acting bug. You book something. What do you book? What's your first paid TV or movie gig that you book?
Um, I did a lot of student films and web series and things like that, but I think my first real
Mhm.
thing that I booked was a co-star on Criminal
Mhm.
Minds. I think the character's name was Jill
I
Flanagan.
love Jill Flanagan.
And
She's a tough nut, that girl. Tell me about Jill
yeah,
Flanagan. What was that?
I was one of those people that works on cadavers,
Mhm.
and you know, I think I was a student working on this cadaver at the beginning of a Criminal Minds
Yeah.
episode, and I just remember I was just so nervous and so excited to be there, and it was just the most magical thing ever. To get that phone call that I had been cast and they had picked me, and you know, this was coming
Exciting.
off of you know 100 auditions that I hadn't booked. I was not one of those actors who moves to LA and books the first
Yeah.
thing, you know, not at
Yeah.
all. So I was just so excited to get that
Do you remember what you had to
role.
say or do in it? Did you have to poke around in the cadaver, or did you say this body is
Um,
yeah, this body's
well, there
dead?
was another guy, Kevin, that was poking around with the
Mm.
cadaver and kind of messing with it, and I was like, "That's not funny, Kevin."
Oh, that's a good line. It's not funny, Kevin. I'm just curious, when you
Yeah.
auditioned for this Criminal Minds, did you have your boyfriend play Kevin in the audition with you?
Oh my God. No, Ryan, I learned my lesson.
That would have been,
As you can see, I'm like ready for a self tape right now. Got my lights, I got my
yeah,
backdrop.
yeah. It's good. It's good. I like it.
I'm all
You are
pro
pro. You
now.
are pro now. Um,
My headshots actually look like
that's
me.
good. They don't look like they're from your high school prom. This is great. You're really
No,
moving in a good direction at this point in your
I
career.
know.
This is great, and I'm so glad that we're talking about this. And and everything you're saying, I can envision, and I can see it, and it's exciting. And I really do want to see this headshot. I'd love to see the audition with your boyfriend, and he's holding you.
Oh my gosh, actually, so would
So
I.
many great things here that I wish we had more access to. Um, so I guess going back to The Voice for a second, because I had a little epiphany about just the auditioning process of that as you were talking about it. What do you think being on The Voice did for you in respect to acting? What did you take from The Voice and the auditioning process and being on that show that helped you as an actor? Some good things had to have come from that. What are those things that came from that?
I mean, the tangible things that came from that were, I got signed with Paradigm for
Mm-hmm.
acting. And then that kind of propelled me into that world, and just it changed my life because so many of my closest friends are actors. That's all I think about now is just storytelling. Um, it's also calmed my desperation in music down because now I have two things that I'm very interested in. So when one's kind of, if I'm not touring or doing music and everything feels a little slow there, I'll just focus more on writing scripts or taking another fun acting class or improv or doing something like that. And then on the other hand, sometimes I call it data, not confidence. I was talking to my friend about this the other day, and I just told her, I have a hard time with being confident. I don't understand what that means when somebody says, just go in there and be confident. Cool. I'm still gonna go in there and feel so nervous. But I had a callback audition recently over Zoom, and I was just in the waiting room and I was getting really, really, really nervous. And I actually had this thought of like, Dia, you were on national TV singing in front of 13 million people on The Voice. Like, that shows me that you can perform under pressure. And I have to talk to myself in a logical way. I can't do mantras. I can't do like, you got this,
Mm-hmm.
like you're enough, or breathe through it. I can't understand that, but I do understand
Mm-hmm.
facts. So I always just go through, you were on this show, you did perform, you did do well. This is what happened. I think you can do this Zoom
Mm-hmm.
callback.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to do that. So in a weird way, The Voice gave me that data that has allowed me to remind myself that I can deliver under pressure. I've done it
Mm-hmm.
before. I can do it
Yeah.
again. And that's kind of just my mantra.
So now that you're still obviously a singer songwriter, you're still doing that with Meg, um, but you've now taken on this opportunity to also get into acting and have done acting on Criminal Minds and things like that. You obviously become more aware of acting and studying it, and maybe in the way you watch movies is different than when you were, say, younger. So just out of curiosity, now that you're in the acting mindset, now that acting is something that you're pursuing, what are some of your favorite movies?
Um, oh man, I definitely watch movies so differently now. I watched 310 to Yuma the other day again, and I
So
watched it
good.
as a young, right? And I thought I'm the kind of person who I paused it after the very first scene of the movie, and I was just watching it
Hmm.
myself, but I paused it and I was like, that's all you need to know. That's the whole setup. The dad comes out. For those of you who haven't seen it,
It's
get
good.
with it. I'm spoiling it. You've had time. But the first scene, it's like Christian Bale, who plays the father, comes out and he says, I'll take care of it. And the son says, no, you won't. That's all you need for the whole movie. That's the theme of like coward to courage. And you just see it. And it's such a beautiful arc and journey. And I was pausing it along the way and kind of just talking to myself, like, oh, this is so interesting. And this is like how they shot this is so interesting. Or, oh, they shot this scene really slowly. Like it kind of really comes down into this tense moment where I feel like the editor kind of took more time with
Hmm.
it. And it was just such a fun thing to watch. 310 to Yuma. And then I watched No Country for Old Men,
Excellent
which was
choice.
great. I watched that
Yeah.
again. I kind of want to read the book now, but I rewatched that with kind of like a different lens. And Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was the last movie I saw in theaters, which was really fun to watch a one location movie. And that was great. Highly recommend
Cool.
that.
Very cool. Now, I mentioned earlier that you and I have worked together. We met and worked on a movie for Discovery Plus called Candy Coated Christmas. You played Chloe.
I played Chloe, the mean
Yes.
girlfriend in the small
Who has a lot of
town.
opinions, mostly about fashion, if I remember correctly.
That was
Was
so
it fun?
fun.
Did you have a good time?
It
Good.
was fun. I feel very lucky because one, it was so great to film in Utah. I've never filmed something in Utah before, and then also it's always a little bit scary to come on as somebody who's just, I think I shot maybe 2 or 3 days total in the whole shoot. I was there for a while, but my shoot days,
They were spread
and it's
out.
always scary to come. Yeah, and I'm just coming into a group of people who already know each other really well, and they have their inside jokes, and they've been working for 10 days together, and they're acting in every single scene together. And I was a little nervous, but the cast and crew couldn't have been more welcoming and more kind to me.
Good. I'm glad everybody was nice to you.
And that is not always the case.
Yeah.
So I just felt really lucky to be there.
Well, we're grateful that you were on the show with us, and it was fun. And I think you were there. Yeah, maybe even a little bit more than that. Maybe you were there 4 or 5 days. I don't know.
I think I was there. There were a few days where I wasn't really doing anything, but I was like in the background of a Christmas
right.
party or
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hanging out for a
Yeah.
little bit longer. But no, yeah. And I remember when you told me you were from St. George, or you were living in St. George, I got really excited. And yeah, just a lot of good energy.
Yeah, very much so.
And you were a part of that. So thank you.
Well, I try to help everybody have the experience of what it is they love about movies. We do it because there's magic in it. We do it because it's exciting and fun. And I do everything I can to keep that contained so that everybody is having that experience and not something where everyone's trying to kill each other or fighting or whatever. I try really, really hard to keep us in that zone where everyone's like has good memories about it after they leave the show.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I try to do.
I think you do a great job
Thanks.
of that.
Just a couple more questions. So if you haven't figured this out about Dia, she is super creative, and if she's not writing a song or singing, she's trying to, be an actor or anything creative. And another thing that you are really good at, you've recently started here in the last couple of years, is screenwriting. Why did you decide? I mean, that's a form of writing, of course. So you write lyrics for songs, but now you're writing stories. Why did you decide that you wanted to try that?
It came out of necessity, honestly. At first, I just thought, I want to act. And if somebody is not going to cast me right now, then I'm going to cast myself. I've always been that kind of person who, I'm not going to wait for a record label to release an album.
Yeah.
I would love a record label, but if they're not going to, Meg and I have released multiple albums without a record label.
Lots.
And right now we're writing a new album with no record label. We've been funding it ourselves, and we might eventually try to find one, but I'm not afraid anymore of just doing it myself. And I have a lot of actor friends who are so talented that kind of wait by the phone or wait for a call from their next audition. And it's such a it's a weird world. And I just couldn't wait anymore. So I started to write screenplays with me in mind, to play the lead or play somebody in it. And I wrote a folk musical called Duo. I wrote a Christmas script that you were kind enough to read and give amazing notes on.
And it's going to get made, and it's going to be really good. It's just a matter of time of the right person seeing it for it to happen.
Oh, thank you. And I wrote a pilot. And then it's interesting now because I'm writing another film, a feature, and another kind of like drama, one location feature. And it's starting to get to the point where I'm not even thinking about writing myself in it. Meaning, like, I just really love screenwriting. I love breaking down movies. I love witty dialogue. I love the hero's journey. And it's been so fun and incredible. And yes, I have some first drafts that I will never show anybody, but things just keep getting better. You just have to keep working at
Well,
it.
you mentioned that maybe you might even write something that's not intended for you to be in, because you're talking about creating opportunities for yourself, which is great because nothing's worse than waiting by the phone for someone to hire you. You're like, bag that. I'll go out and write my own songs, put out my own album, create acting opportunities for myself. And that's really what you need to do anyway as a creative person. You need to create your own opportunities. But you mentioned that maybe you'd even write something that maybe it's not intended for you to act in. Would you write something ever that's intended for you to direct, though?
No? Oh, no. I don't. I mean, maybe in like 20 years, but I just don't understand enough at all. I just don't know enough yet. I would never feel confident in that yet. But I wouldn't write it off.
Right. Got it. Well, I've got one more question for you before we wrap this up, and that is, I like to ask everybody who's on the podcast, what makes a good director to you?
I think somebody who doesn't state the emotion is the destination.
Okay.
Meaning, if let's say I do a take with you and you're directing me and I need to get, in your mind, you're like, she just needs to get more angry. She needs to lose her mind. Like this, her husband just left her. That was a 5 of 10. And that's maybe what you're thinking. And if you come over to me and say, I need you to get more angry, then I'm just thinking about like, okay, I need to get more angry. Like I think now in my mind and with my training, I can take that and translate into what needs to happen. But if I was directing somebody and I thought, I need Ryan to get more angry, I wouldn't go to you and say that. I would say, Ryan, your wife just left you. So you're like, she just left. And why do you think she left? And I would start to talk to you about it. Do you think it's because you haven't spent enough time with her? Is there something that maybe you said to her, that's not in the script that you have been working on that you feel regret about, and kind of just talk to you about it and start to hopefully get the pot bubbling, you know? And I see it in acting class all the time with, if anger is the destination or if sadness is the destination, talking to them about, I don't like talking about people's personal trauma with their dead dog or family stuff. I think that's very personal. I like to stay in the story. If your wife just left you in the script, what happened with your wife?
I see what you're saying.
Your, fake wife. And some people, some young actors need that kind of more personal thing. What would you say to your sister if this was happening? And I do understand that as long as you're not pushing the envelope. Right. I personally don't mind digging into my personal life, but I know that some actors are like, don't talk about my family or something. Right.
You can talk about things, like you say, that are in the parameters of what you're working on with them and let them use that as sense memory or whatever inside and internally in themselves if they choose to do so. But you kind of stay out of that area. Another great tip, when you finally do act, is if you want the actor to be more aggressive or frustrated, just go up and just pinch them really hard and then roll the camera. That usually makes them pretty angry. That makes them pretty angry, especially after a couple takes. Then they're really fueled.
Sometimes physicality like that does work. Sometimes if I push a wall, push up against a wall, that kind of thing can act. Things like that do help.
Well, no, it's true. Like when you're doing an action scene, or sometimes you'll see actors, if you're on set, you'll see actors just stand on a spot and they'll just jump up and down right before the take to just get the blood flowing, and they're just like, okay, I'm ready. And that's kind of like a funny thing that I see a lot of actors do. So. Well, Dia, it's been awesome to talk to you. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for talking about The Voice, what you learned from that experience, how that helped you become maybe a better actor than if you hadn't had that experience. If people want to see what you're up to, where to find you, listen to your new songs, learn more about Meg and Dia, see the lyrics to Koala and see that it's not otter, it's Otta. All of these things. Where can they find you?
Yeah. We're just Meg and Dia on Spotify or YouTube, and then I'm just Dia Frampton on Instagram and Dia Framps on Twitter.
All right, Dia, thanks again for hanging out with me. It's been a blast. I've learned a lot,
Of course.
and I look forward to the next time we get to work together.